I love this comic book. The Walking Dead, Book 12. Rick, Carl, and Lori wake up, and Lori is showing more signs of morning sickness. Hershel walks in on Maggie and Glenn sleeping together and becomes irate, insulting Maggie and threatening Glenn. Maggie defends Glenn and herself, leaving Hershel to storm out. The group unpacks the RV to prepare to move into Hershel's barn, now that the zombies have been cleared out and it can be used again. Dale reminisces about his experiences in the RV with his late wife Irma. Seeing Andrea get upset, he comforts Andrea and tells her he does truly love her. Rick and Alan are cleaning out the barn, and Rick asks Alan how he's doing. Alan says he's not doing well, but genuinely appreciates Rick's concern. He will try his best for the kids and for Donna. Rick quickly gives up on clearing out the barn and goes to convince Hershel to let them stay in the house. Rick proposes the idea of his group moving into the house, but Hershel denies and says once Carl is healed, they'll have to leave. Carol and Tyrese are cuddled together and talking to each other, with Julie and Chris looming in the shadows, undoubtedly thinking about enacting their plan mentioned previously. After learning what Hershel said, Laurie confronts him and demands they be allowed to stay. The argument reaches a head when Hershel raises his hand to slap her. At this point, Rick intervenes. Hershel furiously screams that he's lost his children and tells them he doesn't owe them anything, calling them out as freeloaders. Rick and Laurie continue to make the case, offering up their help to improve the farm as well. Laurie breaking down into tears. As Rick goes to comfort her, Hershel points a gun to Rick's head and tells them all to leave. Otis quickly intervenes, but Hershel maintains his stance. Otis later finds Hershel huddled in his room. Hershel informs him he would have shot Rick, and that he may have lost his mind. As Rick's group prepares to leave, Glenn informs them he's remaining with Maggie on the farm, having worked it out with Hershel. The group is on the road once again, and in a bad situation yet again. They have little food, no protection from the zombies and the weather, and they have finally run out of gas. Everyone spreads out to look for food, shelter, and anything else that might help them. Dale and Andrea stumble upon an incredible find and summon Rick. Over the hill, they see a prison with zombies shambling about outside, a smile on his face. Rick proclaims, "It's perfect. We're home." Laurie's morning sickness continues to confirm that she is indeed pregnant. Carl is even aware with all the vomiting she's doing. Maggie and Glenn's relationship, I'm not sure if I would call it a relationship, continues to grow. He stays in her room that night after the funeral. Hershel walks in and finds them. Like any dad, he is pissed. He sees that everything bad that's happened is Rick and his group's fault. He doesn't see or think that keeping the zombies right there was a tragedy waiting to happen. They are not going to just get their humanity back. They died. Their soul likely moved on at that point, and now it's just rotting bodies without any kind of consciousness roaming around and trying to eat anything moving. Even if they were cured, they'd never be who they were before. It does set up the conflict with Rick and Hershel and staying there. Rick, not even 24 hours after the funeral, asked if they could move into the house. Hershel snaps, just the way Rick did when Otis shot Carl. He nearly kills him. They had a miscommunication when he brought Carl for help. Hershel stated they could only stay while Carl was recovering. Just while Carl is recovering. He never said anything about them moving in there and continuing their lives there. Hershel goes too far, though. Not only did he nearly kill Rick, but when Laurie also states her case and tries to reason with him, he almost hits her. The character that he has shown so far would not normally do that. Grief does cause people to act differently than they normally would. At this point, there is no doubt in my mind that he blames himself for the two deaths of his kids that just happened. He kept those zombies in the barn. He was trying to add another zombie, and the two were killed in the process. I can't imagine what feeling that kind of guilt is like. But from his perspective, he wanted to preserve these people if they could be helped. He wasn't able to see that they were actually rotting and decomposing. The bodies of people he loved and knew were dying now in a physical way, but he wasn't able to see that. We also have Glenn staying behind to stay with Maggie. I really hope that in future books we get to learn more about this and how this actually developed. Possibly more went on behind the scenes than we were shown in previous books. Considering they were not on the farm very long, maybe a week at the most, it's pretty fast paced. Lastly, Dale and Andrea discover the prison. That's huge. This would make a great home because it's secure. The only problem is there are walkers visible from above. Rick can clear those out though. Thanks for tuning in to the I Love This Comic Book podcast. If you would like to make a donation in support of this podcast, you can through Cash App to Pasta26MC. That's pasta like the food, the number 2, the number 6, M as in monkey, C as in cat. If you would like to sponsor this podcast or advertise on it, please send an email to podcast@pastasworld.com. As always, you can go to pastasworld.com for more information.